First off, congratulations on your recent escape from prison.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I did escape from Alcatraz Triathlon yesterday, which I told Jodi that I wanted to be my first question. Because it was, I can only brag on Instagram for so much, and so I've got to do some in person.
Tell us about the mindset for preparing for an event like that.
I mean, I've done a few of those before, so I mean, I think it's just like it's like getting into like a long slog of training, and like thinking about the training. I will tell you, like in the race yesterday, you jump off the boat and you're with like all these other people, and it's very chaotic, and you're in the water, and everybody's like swimming on top of each other. And yesterday it was really cold and windy, and there were big waves, and like I said, I think this was my sixth one of these I've done, and I was. All of a sudden, I was like, it wasn't chaotic. There was like nobody around me, and I couldn't see where I was going, and I was swallowing a lot of water, and I was like, I'm gonna die, and I was thinking about quitting, and it was miserable and really, really hard, and I was like, wow, this is like a metaphor for journalism.
All right, tell us. How
that's
so?
That's not. I'm joking. That's not really true. I love working in journalism. And I didn't think that either. I did think about quitting, but I didn't compare it to my job. I just thought about not drowning.
So what kept you swimming?
Wanted to be here today.
All right. So we'll kick off. So Matt, you and I did a prep call about a week ago. And ahead of time, I put together a list of what I thought were really good questions about the role of...
Great questions.
Great questions about the role of tech in society and the evolution of journalism. So we went through my questions, and at the end of that conversation, you said, okay, so Jodi, how are we gonna make this fun? And I was like, oh, it's supposed to be fun. So I ditched all those questions, and instead I decided to crowdsource questions from folks that you and I have both worked with. We've both been in and around the tech industry for 20, 25 years. And I thought, let's see what the people who work most closely with you over the time at BuzzFeed, Wired, MIT Tech Review, would suggest that I ask you. So that's what I did.
She told me this backstage, by the way, and like I went from being really calm to being very nervous.
That's right, surprise. This is fun. So they sent me their questions, and the thing that surprised me is several of them said, okay, this is what you should ask Matt, but don't tell him it came from me. So these are all anonymous questions from people who know you.
Sounds great. Let's do this.
Okay, so you can escape from Alcatraz, but you can't escape from my questions or your past. All right, so the first question comes from a comms leader in tech, someone you worked with over the years. It's a softball. I'm starting easy.
Great.
The question is, what are the 3 stories you'd like people to remember you for? And why is Welcome to Google Island #1?
Oh, wow. So Welcome to Google Island was something that I wrote after a Google I/O, and it's basically like it's fiction, but it's about sort of Google creating its own weird little world where anything was possible and legal. I would not have put it in my top 3, honestly, but I would say this is a story I wrote about Apple, about getting all my stuff hacked by Apple, just because it wound up, more than any other story I've written, it wound up having like a lot of change in the world as a result. I mean, there was like the time Apple and Amazon changed the way they did things because of that reporting. They introduced 2-factor in some cases, made everybody's life more painful. But I liked that one. I would say that was one of my favorites that I've worked on. I wrote a profile of Sundar Pichai at one point, and I got to see him in India, kind of go around India with him a little bit, and that was like really fascinating to see someone like that sort of in a totally different environment. In a way that I just wouldn't have gotten a chance to see him here. I wrote something on my Tumblr about Gen X that I still stand by because it is the greatest generation, no matter what. There was something in. Oh man, there was something this week about how lovely Gen X was, but which I stand by my reporting on that.
All right, I'm going to go back and read that one because I missed that one. I hadn't heard about the Google Island one till this person suggested it. So I read it last night. It's the first
It's a
time.
little odd, yeah.
Well, so for me, what was fascinating about it was it came out in 2013. I was at Google Ventures at the time. I wasn't at X, but a lot of the stuff you wrote about at that time were things Google X was working on, like self-driving cars and Google Glass, and you made a joke about teleportation in that story. And I think for me, it was like, God, what a moment when we sort of course it was fiction, but also there was a sense of like, oh, this stuff is just around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was what I came away from that I/O with a little bit, was a lot of that. I mean, I guess I was sort of questioning whether that stuff was really right around the corner. Some of it. I mean, it seemed like there was all this enthusiasm for a new world that I wasn't so sure was either going to arrive, or if it did, would necessarily be a good thing. I don't know. So I tried to write about that.
Yeah, it definitely was a good one to reread today. Okay, you mentioned the hacking. A reporter on your current team
Oh, Lord. Okay.
has a question for you. The question is, getting hacked is bad, but would you say it was good for your career?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, it was. It's like just about the best things ever happened in my career. I mean, it was. At the time, it was like incredibly stressful. Adam Rogers. I don't know if you remember. I was super stressed out about it at the time, and like I was afraid that like more of my personal information would come out. I mean, people like put my social security number on Twitter. I mean, like all kinds of weird stuff happened. I was getting swatting threats. But like, yeah, I mean, long term, it was great. You know, I mean, I think. You know, I think when you're a reporter, when you're a writer, a lot of the times, if what you make of a situation really can define your career. You know, I mean, I could have like, and I'm not saying I don't know, I'm not trying to say that this was such a great thing, but I mean, I could have like just tried to hide it or just continue to be deeply embarrassed about it. And but I felt like trying to report it out and be public about it was. I mean, it was risky, I felt like, but it was a good decision. And I think that like a lot of the times when a reporters can embrace that kind of risk, or embrace like the potential for embarrassment, or the potential for looking stupid, it sometimes has a way of working out.
Right. Probably for all of us, like showing that vulnerability.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you know what happened to your hacker?
Well, I know a little bit of some of the. So there's one of them who I've kind of stayed in touch with a couple of them. There's one of them who I last spoke to a while ago. He got really ruthlessly hacked himself, and like doxed really hard, and he like went like totally analog. And he lives in Canada, and he just files a lot of like FOIA requests now, and does weird stuff like that. Another one is like pretty online, and just does weird stuff online, and we communicate every once in a while. And then there are two other kids who are in the same crew who weren't actually part of that. They weren't actually part of some of the kids who actually hacked me, but who were in that same crew. Who one of them somehow or another got Mac Miller's Snapchat, catfished a girl, a teenage girl, like who he was. It was this terrible story, and it, like wound up going to the Philippines with her and another hacker who had been also part of that crew. And they ultimately, seems like they murdered her and are now in prison in the Philippines. Yeah, I mean, sorry, this goes to a dark place, but yeah, those are two of the kids who are in that crew.
Incredible. Wow. All right, we're going to switch gears.
Thank you. Yeah.
So this question is from a fellow tech reporter, not someone who worked at a same publication with you, but someone who was in that crowd covering a lot of the same stories in the early days. This person says, Matt has always been such a good creative writer. I wonder selfishly if he thinks there's any future in the medium, even if it's beyond traditional publication or newsroom structure. So the person went on to say, like, if you were starting your career today, what path would you take? Would you still go to a newsroom? Would you do video? Would you do audio? Would you do something for yourself? Would you do something with AI? What would it be?
I think I'm too, I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm too scared to do something for myself. Like, I look at a lot of the people who do Substacks, or I think I told you this, like Alex Kantrowitz, who's used to be at BuzzFeed News, and he was leaving to go do his own newsletter. I was like, are you sure you want to do that? I mean, that seems really risky, and it's been very successful for him, but I don't think I ever had the, I like the safety of a employer who's going to pay me the same amount of money, twice a month, every month. It's who I am. But, I think a lot about whether or not, I talked to like a number of younger reporters just in the course of my job, and like I'm always sort of interested what makes them go into journalism right now, because it is a field that's pretty, it can be a hard career path. But I think I would probably do it again. I mean, I'd definitely do it again. It's scary. I don't know that I would advise people to do it if I had like a fiduciary responsibility, but it's a fun career, and you get to like meet all kinds of interesting people and ask them questions that nobody else gets to ask them. Whether or not like it's worth paying back your college loans to go into journalism today is a totally different question, and I think it's a difficult one that people have to answer for themselves. And you probably would be a lot better served to go into video. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Sort of a similar vein, another question from this person's from another comms leader in our midst, also an author, is wondering, are we looking down the barrel at the death of long-form journalism?
I hope not. I think that, like certainly the era where there was so much of it that you could, that seems like that's over, right? Like the kind of the classic magazine era that I was fortunate enough to catch the tail end of, where you had so much institutional support for, we're gonna spend a fortune to fly somebody somewhere to meet with some obscure person who nobody's ever heard of, and send a photographer who are gonna pay $20,000 a day and all that kind of stuff. Like that's done.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of like, I think, interesting and exciting experiments that are still happening. I think that, we've seen Substack and things like it be mostly devoted to news, but I mean, the reason people published long-form journalism for years was that people like to read it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that people are going to, stop reading anytime soon, I hope. I don't know, maybe. But I don't have a whole lot of confidence that, the magazine industry or the long-form journalism industry is going to be around in the way that it has been with big publishers supporting that type of thing. But I am optimistic that there's individual, that there are individual pathways out there. Like I look at some of the stuff Evan Ratliff has done over the course of his career, and he's certainly figured out a lot of like different ways to do things and to bring those things to market in big ways. And I have to think that there are a lot of other smart entrepreneurial types who can do that.
Do you think we've lost anything by kind of the shift away from long-form magazine spreads?
I mean, I think, yeah, sure, but I also think that some of that stuff was pretty self-indulgent, Yeah, I mean, I definitely, overall, yeah, I do. I do think there was a certain, like, ridiculousness to some of it, though. There was a preciousness to some of it, like, I don't know if you remember Gawker used to talk about writer-ers, and I don't think we're missing any of that.
Got it. All right. So this next one is from an early BuzzFeed colleague. I don't fully understand this question, so hopefully we'll see what happens. This person says, ask Matt about the philosophy of full salmon reporting.
Oh, Lord.
And how crisis comms folks can best respond to it.
Wait, I'm sorry, what was the second part of that? Because I just lost my
This is the person who didn't want to be named. Full salmon reporting and how crisis comms folks can best respond to it.
The most I'll say about the first part is it just means really going for it and going whole hog for something. It's like whole hog, full salmon, whatever. I mean, it was just a phrase we started using when we meant like you're going to make a really, really big deal out of something, whether or not like you can amp something up, you can ratchet up the tension, you can turn something that didn't seem like it was such a big thing into a big thing just by keeping a dig on it, report on it, go for it. I don't mean like when I say that, I hear myself saying that. It sounds like I'm saying that you're trying to make a big deal out of something that wasn't a big deal. I mean, it's something that seems small. It might be, it might reveal itself to have more and more, but you have to really go for it to make it do that. What can crisis comms people do? I don't know. I mean, like if there's something bad out there, I feel like I know who asked this question. They're trying to embarrass me. I feel like if there's something bad out there, I mean, just be straightforward. I think, I mean, like once reporters like really get onto something and latch into it and start digging and digging and digging on it, like you're not going to make them go away by acting like it's not a problem or not there. I think being straightforward with people, not trying to blow them off, not trying to deceive them, goes a lot farther and ultimately is helpful. And just coming back with as much as you can in a straightforward way is the best thing you can do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think short term it's the hard road, but long term it's the only thing to really go. So, all right.
I mean, I know who that was, and I'm
you can call your friends and see who that is. This is not exactly full salmon reporting, but the energy series that you all just did, I thought was pretty
Thank you.
Epic journalism.
Thank you. Did you have a question about it?
Yeah, I want to know. So I don't know if you've all read it. It was a series of stories called Power Hungry, right? I'm interested in kind of the backstory of that investigative reporting.
So we just published this big, like 7-story series that dug in on AI and energy usage. And I mean, the backstory is just that I felt like we had both incredible climate and AI teams, and climate and energy and AI teams, and I wanted to put the two of them together and like see what they could go for and dig into. And I mean, we were talking about long form earlier. I mean, we published, I think 3 of the stories in the package were over 5,000 words. We let them loose for 6 months and go see what you can find out and dig it up and present it. And I thought it came out really well. And so we had like a series on basically looking at energy from the inference level, energy usage versus the training level, which is where a lot of it's traditionally been. Another one on water usage at data centers. Another one on like the way natural gas is filling up all this energy. But we really let the reporters drive the package. And I think that's another thing that I'm trying to do as an editor is let the reporters know more. They're on the ground with stuff, and you can let them lead, I think, usually.
Yeah, it's definitely great. Okay, last question from another comms lead in tech. If you could wipe out one app forever and keep another forever, what would you choose?
Okay, I would probably keep Twitter, not X.
Thank you.
Oh, God. Microsoft Outlook, does that count?
That's okay, fair enough. All right, everybody please give it up for Matt Honan.
Thank you.
Thank you.